the Developers Thursday of this year, as far as I am informed. We have an interesting topic, a fight today. We have two contendants who don't want to fight each other, as far as I understood, but they should, because the idea was to have a fight, Michele Magri against Chris Mair, about which is the best large language model, or what large language models they analyzed and which is better, what are the benefits or the drawbacks, comparing one to each other. Before we start with this Software Developers Thursdays edition, I would like to put it in perspective. So at Neue Tech Park, we have developed this specialization strategy digital, which is based on three pillars: the specialization area IoT, Internet of Things, which is mainly collecting data from our environment. Once we have data in the system, we have to manage this data and to share data with the different systems. Today we would say the different agents, I don't know. And that's the Open Data Hub. And once we have data, we can do data processing like mobility as a service applications, which we put under the banner of artificial intelligence. So the talk today for us in the specialization strategy is positioned clearly under the AI specialization area, and we will find out what language models can do, and also what we are very interested in is in understanding if we can use large language model efficiently also offline, creating a digital sovereign environment for our solutions. With this, I hand over the microphone to our speakers. So Chris Mair, you probably know from 1006.org, an expert in South Tyrol, which supports us in many projects, yes, since many years. And Michele Magri on the other side of the ring, the opposite, so in the sense of he was the youngest winner of the Neu Hackathon ever. So he has won a hackathon when he was 13 years old. So we have the expertise and the young, and now we will see who wins this fight. Let's have the fight begin.
Okay, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Hello, good evening. Maybe you also want to say hello, or?
Yeah, hello everyone.
Okay. So basically, this whole talk of today started, I have to explain why everybody is expecting fights. Spoiler, there won't be a lot of fights. So it started basically when Peter Eichner presented his a very nice tool. Peter Eichner is here. Okay, he's the man that is responsible for all of this. He presented his nice tool that could use an LLM to summarize websites and everything and videos. Okay, and I think I made a question about what LLM he was using, and he said, I just use OpenAI, the API, ChatGPT, etc. And I said, since there is all this sustainability idea, etc., why don't you use Mistral, for example, a European model? And then Michele said, no, but that's bad, and so on. And we sort of started to fight about what model Peter should use. So this idea started as a fight, but in the meantime, I learned to know Michele, and we talked about LLMs, and we basically found out that we completely agree. So this is not going to be a fight, but this is just a presentation about our experience on different models and different ways to use these models. And especially also thinking about Peter Eichner, the idea is really that we want to transmit the idea that if you right now are using some proprietary model, you use OpenAI, some of the ChatGPTs, you can really exchange that with an open source model by just changing the endpoint. I remember Peter Eichner said, yeah, I'm not a developer, but you don't have to be. It's really just a matter of switching the endpoint. We are going to show you that. So the invitation is to not rely on some market leaders or some supposed market leaders model, but really try out all the models that are there. That being said, I now need the abstract, okay. So we, as usual, we don't have a nice presentation. We just talk a little bit. Yeah, let me just introduce. There is this concept of neural networks, which is an old concept, but in the, let's say in the 0 years or the 10 years, there were a lot of breakthroughs, and as you might know, some things have been solved using neural networks. For example, computer vision had huge leaps forward. Things that were always very complicated, like face recognition, for example, is basically a solved problem now. Our phones can recognize our faces, no problem. In the research of neural networks, there was this very important year, 2017, when this very famous paper came out, Attention is All You Need. That was a paper by employees of Google. That's soon after that paper left Google and went to OpenAI. And this paper basically introduced a new architecture for neural networks, deep neural network, that means with many layers, that could solve old problems about natural language processing. And that was basically the initial spark that illuminated this world of the large language models. So this is just a little bit of historical context also, so you realize this is actually quite newish. I mean, in 2017, this was an academic paper. Huh? So OpenAI, with the help of the people also that really wrote that paper, started to research that, started to invest money, buy a lot of hardware, and train larger and larger models. And at some point they had GPT-2, which was the first LLM that showed remarkable capacity, but was still almost exclusively low in academic circles. Just add something if you want to integrate. And finally in 2020, GPT-3 came out, which was had a kind of a larger audience. Nobody then talked about AI and revolution, etc., but it was already known to more people. And then there was still some delay in, I think it was end of 2022, if I'm not misremembering, GPT-3.5 came out, and that went to the public. So Sam Altman really publicized that, and they made ChatGPT, and it started to be known to the general public. The shock was then the GPT-4 in March, released 14th of March 2023. That's Pi Day for the nerds among us, March 14th. And that was really the shock. GPT-4 could basically solve the Textaufgaben, how do you say that? So text exams.
Like, yeah, it could solve a lot of problems, and like very simple problems. As the first like example we got, I got in first hand in school. Like a few of my friends were like showing to me like solving very simple physics problems, like calculating potential energy and something like that. And it was quite a big breakthrough. Like for the first time, you didn't need someone on the internet that had already solved a similar problem. You could just ask it, and yeah, it was quite incredible.
It did the homework for you.
Yeah, so, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, since then, in the academic side, it has helped a lot of students like actually learn stuff. Recently, a lot of new features centered into learning and not cheating. Learning have been implemented, and that's like very cool. Like in my opinion, it helps a lot of my peers at school. Pretty soon we started seeing the first self-hosted models. Almost like companies were starting to understand that open weight models, so models where you could actually like download and host on your machine, were almost the future. The first company that did this, ironically, is Meta, and like it was kind of an unexpected move, but it has like paid off. Most of people now associate the term llama to AI, and that's like pretty incredible. And almost nobody knows it's because Meta like created this first open weight models called with the actual name llama.
Yeah, it was a play on words, as llama is spelled with two L's in English, the llama, the animal. And so Meta just followed the tradition of calling software-related stuff with the name of strange animals, so they called it llama. And nowadays, a lot of things around this world are called llama something, but they have nothing to do with the original open weight models by Meta. There is quite some confusion. I always hear people say, okay, so you're using llama. Yeah, wait, no, I'm using some sort of software that has llama in its name that has nothing to do with those original models from 2023. Please also note that we talk like it was ancient history. Yeah, GPT-4 and the open weight models llama came out in 2023. That's 2 years ago. Yeah, so think about what changed in these 2 years. It's incredible.
Yeah, these models have evolved a lot because the community also evolved a lot. Like for the first time, people were seeing the actual potential behind these models, and especially like the first big breakthrough was like with the syncing models. For the first time, people realized that making the model actually like think about its actions was actually more productive and like actually output.
Use the pointer.
What pointer?
You want to use the pointer to point to the? No. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, it's. I think people like we are in the third point, 4th point, and like yeah. It was pretty amazing. Then the community realized, what about the vision and like actually audio? And so for the first time, we started seeing multimodal models that you could actually host yourself. Like you could actually go on Google, search up llama.cpp, and actually run your own multimodal model on your laptop. Like that's incredible in my opinion. And yeah, in 2 years we had a lot of development and evolvement in the quality of the output. Matter of fact, there are like peoples that are making leaderboard and benchmarks on these models, and like they work by running some known benchmarks on all the models that come out, proprietary and non-proprietary. So it's all fair, and yeah, people vote on the best output. And when you had like tons of people voting it, you could probably rule out the personal preference. And so like that's why we can have some leaderboards that we're gonna show later.
Yeah, we are going to show you this LM Arena one, which is one of the more objective ones, I'd say. Basically, let's anticipate something about benchmarks. In the early phase, there were these synthetic benchmarks. So you had a set of exams and had your LLM solve them. But the problem is that new LLMs were trained on those examples. So what LM Arena does is you can go there and use it like you would use a chatbot, okay? And they give you two answers, but they don't say you which model made which answer, and you choose which you like most. So it's basically voting based, and of course that cannot be fooled because the questions are not stored anywhere, so you cannot train your next model on it. Yeah, but we are going to show this a little bit later. We have some
just to remove like a doubt, it's not like preference based, because there is a lot of people voting on this like tests. It's very important to note that, and that's why LM Arena is one of the biggest. It's one of the most reliable because it's one of the biggest like platform to vote on. So that's literally the only reason we chose LM Arena, but you could choose something else as long as it has a large user base.
Okay, let's move a little bit back. So now we are in 2003. Let's talk a little bit about what happened. Basically, when OpenAI had these successes. Zuckerberg was totally into AI and released these models. Everybody somehow jumped on this train, okay? And everybody saw the potential and invested a lot of money. So, for example, you have Google. Google was always a leader in everything machine learning, in deep learning, in deep neural networks. You know that the guy has a Nobel Prize now, so they are quite successful and famous. But Google was running a little bit late on LLMs. They somehow did not immediately recognize the potentiality, but then invested a lot of power, money, people, compute power into it, and now are basically also among the leaders, if not the leaders, with these Gemini models or the Gemma models, which are the open weight ones. Then the Chinese
just to
started
clarify,
to...
Gemma models were for a long time the best models, like open weight models available. Now they have been like catched up by the Chinese models. They are very impressive. Like it's absolutely baffling, quite baffling that they were able to catch up this badly without all this infrastructure like Google. Like Google has the data, has the infrastructure, has the manpower, and like in the meanwhile, DeepSeek just came out of nowhere and said, yeah, we have a better model than Gemma, clearly. And like even now, it's one of the best models at the moment. DeepSeek R1 I'm talking about. And it's quite amazing how they managed to use the thinking feature of the models that had been recently discovered. Or like they literally like introduced it to the public for one of the first times. I'm not sure if they were the first, but one of the first, and show the world that you don't need to be the largest corporation to build the best model.
There is also some geopolitics going into this, of course. It is people think that China invests a lot of money to have hardware that is not by NVIDIA and so on. So there is a lot of geopolitical tensions also. But the interesting thing is that most, if not all, of these Chinese models are basically open weight models. So of course we can sit back and and say, fine for us. They are Apache licensed or MIT licensed weights, so we can just use them. Of course, you could say I don't want to use Chinese models, but why not? It's not somehow software that might have backdoors or whatever they say about Chinese software. I'm just quoting people here. It's just the open weight, so why not? Okay, who wants to talk about Europe? Nobody. Nobody wants to talk about Europe. Okay, I will talk about Europe because I brought Mistal into the play. Unfortunately, Europe is not only here, but especially here, a little bit behind. We basically have in the whole of Europe just one single company that has competitive LLMs. That's just the way it is. I know if this video will be viewed by a certain German company, they will say the guy does not understand anything. But I will say it on record. In Europe, just Mistral AI, the French company, has really performant and powerful models. That's the way it is, and we have to be honest.
Yeah, we hope we catch up. Like we just hope somebody in Europe like actually wants to become first and actually catch up, because we have like the potential. Like we could do this. We just need a bit of time. That's it.
Yeah, if I were sort of a European dictator, I would cancel a few of these huge projects and just dump money to Mistral. But yeah, I'm not a European dictator, so I can't. Okay, so Mistral is one of the names you need to remember, which you will hear later today a few times, because I'm a fan of. You want to add something about multimodal still?
Yeah, multimodal models are like very amazing. They enabled us to, even like on self-hosted hardware, to actually analyze images with them. And it's very useful. I've seen a few projects nowadays that are using them as like OCRs. So like instead of having a YOLO model that identifies letters, they ask the model itself what is written in the text. And it's quite amazing because it enables users to capture even the like layout of certain documents without pre-coding the actual OCR. And it's quite amazing. Like, so yeah, that's basically the main use. And on the audio side, we have models that are able to transcribe audio with punctuation. Like from the audio, they can even like deduce punctuation. Ironically, one of the best open source model that does this is Whisper from OpenAI, but it's open source, so it's okay, don't worry. And so yeah, and all of this can be self-hosted on like actually obtainable hardware. You don't need some like multi-million-dollar server farm. You can host it on your machine, and that's quite impressive.
Yeah, I want to add, you said about this OCR problem. When you have PDFs, they are often formatted in a way that you can't just extract the text. I just had an actual, I'm working on a prototype for some company where exactly this is the problem. We have PDFs or even photos where the text is has parts that are associated only if a human looks at it. Like you can imagine something. For example, you have two columns, and the position of the text in the two columns correspond. And this is very hard because if you run this through a PDF to text converter, you get the text, you lose this kind of visual information. And there is I said I'm a fan, there is a Mistral Small, the version from June 2025, which is really good at that. You can just give it a PDF, you need to convert it to base 64 image data, and then you can ask a question as you would ask a human to somehow exfiltrate the data from this PDF.
Yeah.
This works really well.
The exact name of the model is Ministral 3, and it's available in all kinds of ways.
No, that's another one. That's the new one. The one I was saying was Mistral Small.
Yeah, that's the first one that like was able to actually do this stuff. But like Ministral 3 is very good at it, like incredibly good at it. So
But they updated Mistral Small in June 2025. That's important. It's
Okay,
not the
yeah.
first small. It's the June 25 small that is such good.
Okay. I get it.
But they are both Mistral models, so
Yeah.
this was not a fight.
Yeah, we
Okay.
discussed like this. Like it's actually quite amazing how many things we have in common. Like we discussed a bit. Sorry if I'm going a bit off track, but I wanted to say how amazing it is. Like that we are essentially the same person. I'm just younger. Like it's incredible.
Yeah, we somehow find out that we're using the same software, the same computers, the same everything. We basically agree on everything. Okay, so yeah, self-hosting. Let's talk a little bit about self-hosting. If you used LLMs, there is a very high probability that you are just consuming some API. So you send your request, your prompt, your data somewhere, and you get an answer from some data center that has expensive NVIDIA hardware, etc. Basically, this is fine, but there is a tendency now that models get smaller and smaller and get better. So smaller models get better. So when I first, I remember when it was November 2023, the SFSCon. Let's make a bit of advertising for the SFSCon, which is this great conference by Noi. I had a talk about self-hosted LLMs. And at that time, we had basically ChatGPT 4 that was kind of the king. And I confronted or compared self-hosted model to that one, and they could not compete. At the time, there was the first release of Llama. There was a model called Falcon that is now not so much known anymore by somebody from the Emirates. Then there was
Yeah, the
Together IE had something, but basically they could not solve the harder problems.
Yeah, the incredible thing about the open source community is that like they are evolving very fast in the model scene, especially with the lack of like resources compared to the big companies, and it's quite amazing because like me as like a young developer seeing this like gives me hope that one day even someone like some small organization could actually lead the market, and that's quite amazing.
Yeah, as they get smaller and smaller, training, let's be honest, right now training is still out of scope for any individual or small company. Training is still incredibly expensive. You need to be a Chinese startup, or you need to be OpenAI or Google or Mistral or some companies with deeper pocket to
Yes,
do.
but
There is hope, there is concrete hope that in a few years we will be able to even train the models themselves. But this is not for today. So today we are not going to say train your own models, even though we are convinced that in a few years it will be possible.
Yes, but what about now? Like, what if we need something very specific or something that an open weight model doesn't do quite well? Well, there is a solution. It's called fine-tuning. It's like not as
Can
good
I
as...
add something about self-hosting still?
Yeah, go.
Before you talk about fine-tuning. Basically, what I wanted to add is November 2023, I had this talk. There was no model. Somebody of you were there. You remember, I had a Textaufgabe I gave to the model, and GPT-4 solved it easily, and no other model could solve it. You remember that? Yeah, you do. Okay. You do. Exactly. Now, I have here on my notebook a model that solves it easily. Ironically, it's also modeled by OpenAI, but it's Apache 2 licensed weights. It's the famous GPT OSS model, for example. So think about this. In 2 years, we went from awing this incredible GPT-4 to having it with open weights running on our notebooks. If we extrapolate that, I'm quite convinced in another few years, we can train a model of that quality on our own hardware. We are not there yet, so okay. While we are not there yet, Michele will show you a trick that you can use in the meantime.
Before going into fine-tuning, that's a very like quick trick for today. I want to talk about the fact that recently I had a speech at the SFS-Con 2, and like I talked about LLM-assisted coding. I'm hoping that in the future our hardware gets that good and our models get small enough to actually be able to get LLM-assisted coding on our local machines. That would be very great, but we aren't there at the moment. We can have models that like do auto-completions, but models that do entire like projects via the agentic modes, that takes too much time. Like you're gonna be slower using that than actually writing the code yourself. So we're not there yet. But let's go back. Like, what about if I need this model to do something very specific or talk in a very specific way, and like nobody has done a model like that? Am I stuck? Am I forced to use like a proprietary model with some special prompt? Absolutely not. We have this technique called fine-tuning. It takes a pre-trained model, like you can take an open weight model that has been pre-trained and add your dataset, and via some scripts that have been written by the amazing open source community, you're actually able to train, to fine-tune that model on that dataset.
Maybe show the Onslaught.
Yeah, I can show you like an amazing project that I wanted to introduce to everybody. And wait, I need to open it up. It closed. I don't know why. Maybe it crashed. Let me check. It's called Onslaught. It's a very amazing, like, it's fully open source, Apache 2 licensed. Even if it looks like so nice, it seems like a startup or something. It's not. It's an open source project. And like they have rewritten GPU kernels to like actually optimize the fine-tuning process, and so they make it feasible to run on your own hardware. I actually fine-tuned some models with them. It's absolutely amazing. Other than that, they optimized some transformation processes and other processes to train the LLMs. And yeah, you can see like they explain quite in depth for like even I was able to understand it, and like they explain everything about fine tuning, and like I suggest you read this because it's quite interesting. Even if you don't want to fine tune a model, it's like very interesting because you can even see how they work. Like they quite briefly explain it, and yeah, they don't do only fine tuning. Clearly, they recently introduced the reinforcement learning. That's another technique to train models. Like they give you the output, you choose the output you prefer, and the model learns on that. But yeah, with this like technique, fine tuning in general, not you don't have to use Onslaught for sure, but it's a very nice project. So like take a look at it, and yes, do we take now questions? Like I don't know. All right, no problems. Like let him ask him. So, yeah, please. Yeah, please go on.
Yeah, what's your use case? Like when you were like, okay, so I want to fine tune a model. I don't know if I want to fine tune a model. What was your use case for? I want to fine tune a model. I'm gonna try this, or was it
Yes.
just I'm gonna try this?
No, it was like quite really. I'ma try this. I wanted to see one of their like showcases that was like a legal-oriented model on a very small like 8 billion legal-oriented, yeah. Like on a very small model, it was like 8 billion parameters. It was the Llama 3, like the default. They have notebooks for specific models because every model has its own LoRa adapters. They're like this thing that helps you to train the model without training it fully. Like you can train a small set of parameters, and the output is very good for how much you spend in electricity, and like the output was very great.
Yeah, the keyword is LoRa,
Yeah, I
low,
sorry for
low,
the
low
pronunciation.
rank adapter.
Yeah.
If you want to do something, look up the keyword LoRa. That's the important.
Yeah, you can look it up on this website. It's very good. And so yeah, that was my use case. Like it was very like hobbyist and like trying things out. And that's the only reason I'm like actually suggesting you look at a try of them. Like I have no reason to suggest. It's not my project. It's just a very cool one.
Of course, we are paid by all these guys.
No, we're not. We're not. And so yeah, let's go back here. We can talk about the benchmarks if you want.
Okay, so I'll take the HDMI.
Yeah, it's off.
Yeah, let's open the page. Okay, so let's look up LM Arena. Of course, I'm not prepared. I have it.
Yeah,
Don't have the. We somehow prepared only the talk and not the presentation. So that's the one. Cookie banner. There's
yeah,
a
about
cookie
the preparation,
banner.
we really like our preparation was discussing about stuff.
Yeah,
and
we basically made the whole discussion, so we are prepared. It's not that we are not prepared. So this is the page as explained. They somehow use users to vote for the answer, so you can have a chat there and vote for what is the best answer. Yeah, okay, let's zoom it a little bit. Let's look at the text leaderboard. Of course, there's other things like for multi-model models or coding models, but let's look at the text. And you see here there's a ranking. There are, if I remember correctly, at this moment 277 models. Think about that, 277 models. So it's not as exclusive as you might think. And there is an ELO here, which is a number that somehow tells you the quality or the score.
yeah, it's
the
a score based on the various tests. So
of this model with this statistical idea behind, which is the ELO, the same as in chess or in other sports. And you can see here that these are the well-known people. There's Gemini Pro, there is the newest GPTs, there is Claude, these are the usual suspects. And what I did here is I did a little bit of analytics on the state today. I don't see anything.
yeah, there is Mistral too. It's just a bit like down the leaderboard, but they will soon become like go up for sure because they released new models.
Yeah,
So
Mistral
we
3
hope-
was released 2 days ago, so they have a large error bar still. They will adjust a little bit. So I imported this into Postgres. I'm well known for bringing Postgres into every possible talk, even if it does not has anything to do with databases. So I imported this and did some sort of analytics. So if you look at the top, you might be a little bit disappointed if you're an open source guy, as most of us here are, I guess, because you see all license proprietary. However, you need to put this a little bit into perspective. So if you look at these scores here in the 1,400 range, let's put this into perspective by just filtering out the OpenAI models, so the GPTs here. Okay, so there's a filter here, and you see there's quite some long list of different GPT models in different versions and so on. And you see the famous 4 released in March 2023, which is here at position 159. So this was the top model 2.5 years ago. This was the absolute top models, which was top of the world. It's now at this position here. Look at the score. The score is 1,275, if I did not miss the row. Okay. In the meantime, OpenAI itself sensed the necessity to release also some open source models because everybody else has. So they needed to act too, because otherwise they are left out of the whole bubbling open source community. They released the GPT OSS models. And you see even the small one with 20 billion has a higher score than the original GPT-4. This is as fast as development goes here. If you did anything months ago, redo it now because you might get different results. It's really very fast. They have another model here, the OSS 120B, which is even better and also a budget too. The small one, 20 billion, is running right now on this notebook. I can show it to you. It probably does not have more knowledge than the original 4 because it's smaller, but it's definitely as smart as 4, also shown by this score here. And it can solve the original problem from my talk in 2023. Okay, so open source weights are catching up. Here I filter with where license is not proprietary. You see a lot of models here. They are not in the top 10. They aren't. But look at the scores. They are in the 1,400s. Okay, so if you scroll up, you see there is not a lot of distance here. The top models here go from 1,440 to 1,490. The open source ones are already there between 1,416, 1,429.
Yes, I think to point out clearly, these are the biggest model. Like we're talking about 400 billion parameters, something like that. It is unfeasible to run, it's unfeasible to run it on your machine now, but maybe in the future we're going to have smaller models that are smart like this. As we have seen, we are the same. It's incredible. Like same ideas and everything.
We think in the same way, yeah. He did not see this.
Yeah,
okay,
no.
So here I put some names of well-known small models. Say if you agree with my choice here.
Absolutely.
So there is, for example, Qwen 3 Gemma, which was mentioned by you already. There is Mistral Small, my favorite Mistral Small. There is the GPT-OS 20B. These are small models. You can run them on your somewhat powerful computer. They are small enough. One runs here. And they are not 1,400 yet, but they are 1,300. They are probably already good enough for summarizing, which was Peter Eichner's task, for RAC, which is the thing where you put your own documents into the prompt and they will answer questions about your documents. You can fine-tune them. Okay.
Yeah, the fine-tuning stuff, like maybe with the newest models, you're not gonna find pre-made notebooks for it, but like the open source community is fast in that regard too. So probably like if you wait 2 to 3 weeks, you're gonna find a pretty good notebook that explains to you even how to create a decent dataset for it. So like you're not left to your own. They explain even how to create dataset, how to optimize it, and how to run it like actually correctly, because it's not as straightforward as using a pre-made open weight model, but it's gonna give you way better results. So please keep that into mind.
Okay, so as we are kind of lost, okay, so this was the leaderboards. You have an idea and you have seen a few names. I should maybe also run one. Should I run one? Yeah, I should run one because I said I have it here, so I should also start it up. We are going to talk a little bit about software and hardware later on, but I'm not anticipating this. I can't type with one hand.
Yeah, maybe I'll just take over for a bit while he runs his models. Yeah, the open source community, as I said, like I've been all over it, but it's super amazing. Like it enabled us to create pretty good projects, even for the NOI. And so yeah, I'm talking about the project for the Open Data Hub that has been in collaboration with CacheSolve, amazing company, by the way. And yeah, here it is running. This is llama.cpp. It is optimized for Apple Silicon. I think about Apple Silicon is that it's very difficult to get working for certain regards, but Llama CPP has done a great job on using it.
Yeah, I have to add, when he says it is optimized for macOS, it's not just macOS. It's one of the software that is also for Mac optimized, but it of course runs on NVIDIA, it runs on everything. It's one of the software that supports most backends, I think.
Yeah, for sure you have heard about Olama or this software that simplify the actual usage of models. This is the backbone of it. Like this is what runs the models.
Yeah.
So
generally, if you are an end user, go ahead. We know that you love Olama, install it, etc. But if you're a developer, maybe go a little bit deeper and install Llama CPP, which is the core Olama runs on, because you understand a little better what is going on. Olama is more for end users.
yeah, it clearly requires more configuration, but it's worth it. Like you're gonna get way better performance by using this and configure it for your system.
So say something. What you want to ask?
I would ask something that's not quite easy.
How should I use this interface?
I don't think it has knowledge about the interface, right?
It has no knowledge about, there's just a plain system prompt. You are a helpful assistant and full stop, so it does not know what date it is, where it is running. There is basically no system prompt here.
What could we ask? Something about mathematics, maybe? What is Noitek? Right, yeah.
Yeah, I asked it, who are you? Now, this is more to show you how fast this is. Okay, so this is really fast. And this is not a super fast computer.
I mean, it's M2.
Okay, he has an M4, so he's flexing. He's flexing. It's not in any way a top-of-the-line computer or the newest possible computer. This just works fine. You wanted to ask what? The Noitek bug, yeah. This is a tricky one because it's a relatively small model, so the pre-trained knowledge, it does not remember everything in the whole of Wikipedia. It might struggle with this. If you ask a question like to solve a riddle, it would be relatively better. This is a smart model, but not necessarily a model with huge knowledge.
You can fix this with the fine-tuning and regs, clearly. Like.
The sound of one hand clapping. Wait. How much RAM does this need?
I have no idea. He said
The model is 20 billion parameters of 4-bit, so the model size is about 10 gigabytes. Okay.
10 gigabytes of like free RAM.
Yeah, at least, because it adds something for all the buffers and stuff for the context and stuff. I think you can run it well if you have 16 gigabyte of VRAM. That runs well. Otherwise, you have to split it and run part of it in the normal RAM. But a 16 gigabyte VRAM chip would do this. This is the Mac with unified memory. And it should probably run on one with 24 total gigabytes. It should run. This one has 32.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because like this is a 20 billion parameter model. It's not like an 8 billion, and it runs like
I sort of guessed that he would not know. Okay, there's probably different tech parks here. This is a little bit what I expected. There are other. It is not completely wrong. Probably NOI is just 3 letters, and there are other NOIs. So, for example, there is probably a NOI.
Yeah, maybe right like
in Nuremberg Office for Innovation. Might be that it
maybe
exists.
like right NOI Bolzano or something
Yeah.
like that.
No, I think it's a little bit. The problem is that it's just NOI Tech Park here is too small to be in its trained knowledge.
Yeah, it's
Let
pretty
me add
constrained.
Bolzano.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this would need to be programmed.
Yeah,
So
clearly.
this
There is-
interface has not an agent that does web searches, but other interfaces could use this model and add web searches, of course. This is not a feature of the model itself, but it's a feature of the interface where you have to. Yeah. This is the interface that comes with Llama CPP, which is absolutely bare bones. It's just chat, and you can upload images if you have a visual model, or audio files if you have an audio model, but nothing else.
Yeah, you could use some other open source project on top
yeah.
of it, like LangChain maybe. You could like write a simple rag or maybe some tooling that enables his search. I've seen some MCP servers for Google, so or even DuckDuckGo if you don't like Google, I don't know. Use whatever, but yeah, you can connect this to the internet or even to your own documents.
Yeah, what a lot of projects do is they add tool calling, so the LLMs in their system prompt get information on how to call tools. And among the tools is, of course, a web search or a Python environment, so they can execute code. For example, if you want to have them calculate exactly, you give them a Python environment where they can then run the calculations, and they will give you the perfect answer. Otherwise, they are not very good at that. Okay, so yeah, this is probably going to be different tech parks. I don't think that this is ours. Sometimes styled Neue Tech near the city center of Bolzano started the park sites on a former industrial site that has been redeveloped into a mixed-use innovation campus. Oh, I think that's the one. That's incredible. To create an ecosystem where startups and research okay, yeah, not bad. Operated by the Neue GmbH, is that correct? No, it's a spa, right? Yeah, it's a spa. So it's a little bit of, yeah, what is spa in English?
Something.
What is spa in English? Aktiengesellschaft. Inc. Well, I think this is just the border of its knowledge. It's just too small to.
The thing to point out that if
we can ask the same thing, the larger one, the 120 billion one, which we are going to show when we talk about APIs.
Yeah,
I have
absolutely. But like you need to keep into account that you're in production. If you actually need information about the NOI, you're not going to use it like this. You're going to connect it to a RAG or something like that, or even fine-tune on NOI.
Absolutely. Anyway, this was more the clapping. Yeah, this was more just a proof to show that it's running fast. You don't have to have huge computers to run these fast models. The models I showed you, Mistral small, this one, Gemma, 27 billions. Is it 27 billion, Gemma? I think so.
It's 12 and 27, yes.
Yeah, these models run just fine on a somewhat powerful computers.
There is other sizes, but they're reasonable to run, and the reasonable outputs are from these two. Gemma 312 billion is also multimodal, so that's a thing that it could be very useful for you. I'm not sure about the 27, probably, but I haven't looked into it. You can run it on the Mac.
The exact wording you wanted?
Sorry. It's a Zen comment. What is the noise of one hand clapping? What is the sound?
Yeah, so it's a trick question, something like that. Okay. Is this like a commonly known thing to be mistaken by the models?
I never heard that, but if it's a known riddle for LLMs, it might be in the training already.
Yeah, if it's something like very common, it's probably... What is this? Okay.
Okay, so the sound of one-hand clapping is by the most common answer silence, but that only in the software school. Let's unpack why this seemingly simple phrase has become a staple of Zen practice. What it tells you about the perception of sound, blah, 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 the corner, origin, the phrase, okay, that is probably Japanese. What is that of one-hand clap? It's a classic Zen koan, first record in the Wuju. I don't know if this is true. Is this true? Okay. Yeah.
I mean, the answer about silence is correct.
You always have to. The problem here is, of course, with the we are not using the model the right way. These small models are very good at, as I said, for RAG, for summarizing, where you or even to add an agent that does a web search. Yeah, you know where you give the correct information, because it's incredible how much they know in those 20 billion parameters, which is 10 gigabyte. In 10 gigabyte, there's the whole knowledge is condensed.
Yeah, talking about the output, the physics standpoint seems correct. So, yeah, you got your answer there.
Okay.
Can I chime in with a quick question? This is specifically for English language, or does it also operate very well in other languages?
I'm not sure. Probably it does work well, but for the best output,
it's quite okay. For German and Italian, it's quite okay. But if you want to do tricky translations, you need. I mean, if you want a large vocabulary, I've seen this model fail to translate very specific terms, for example, between German and Italian. But 120B will manage the larger one.
and if you need the smaller one to actually like talk another language, it's either you fine tune, or oftentimes when you ask them to only translate, they do that. So you could like get the answer in English and then do a second prompt to answer in that language. And it could work if you don't want to go through the hassle of fine tuning, because yeah, it's feasible, but it's not as convenient as using the default model, you know? So yeah.
Just had it translated to German. Yeah, as you can see, this is sort of working. So I only know English, Italian, and German, and that's quite okay. Even for the 20 billion one, the small one. It's quite okay. Mistral Small also is quite okay, these 3 languages. Even better, maybe. Mistral, I think, has more multi-language training.
There are also like open source, open weight models that are like specific for each language. Like there is like communities that even get like the biggest models, fine-tune them for a specific language. So you could look into that too.
Okay, so let's move back here. Okay, so yeah, we showed the leaderboard. We talked about the different models here, even showed a small one running on a notebook. Let's clarify a moment this RAG thing. If you, okay, so Michele already told you how fine-tuning can be used for all kind of interesting things. There is an even lightweighter alternative if you just want to have questions about your own documents answered, or if you want to summarize your own document. There is this thing called RAG, which stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And this is even simpler. It's the most simple thing you can do. You need to pair your LLM with some kind of search. Okay, so if there's a question or a task you want to do, you need to have a part of the document that is talking about what you're interested in, and then you just create a prompt with this text from that document, and ask the LLM to answer the user's questions or to do the summarizing or whatever. And the nice thing is that you can have a reliable answer. For example, in this context here, if I feed it in a RAG system information about all institutions in Bolzano, the search would find the text about Neu Tech Park, and then the model could summarize the precise text with no hallucinations and no problems that you typically get when the model does vaguely remember what you are.
Yeah, if you would like to know more about how like the model knows the semantic meaning, you could like look into embedding models. They are specific models like that transform your input into vectors, and these vectors get used to search similar meaning in a database. So like your knowledge base could become like vectors in a database, and it just uses those to search. So it's not magic. Like you could actually look into it.
Yeah, you can use all kind of searches, but since you're using an LLM anyway, that means you have a large computer. You also use embedding because this is kind of the most modern or best way nowadays to do searches.
Yeah, I have only like surface knowledge about embedding, but if you look into it, you're gonna be amazed by how it works. It's like almost magic for me. So.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, I did for decades. I did full text search, but that never works. In South Tyrol, it never works because you search the German word and the text was in Italian. It never works. If you do this embedding-based semantic search, it's really like magic. There is the Neu has its own simple RAG implementation, which you should not look up because I need to update it. And Stefano is already looking very angry because I promised I would do it by the SFSCon, but I did not do it. So it's called Stewart. Yeah, let's just open the website.
So yeah, the amazing thing about Stuart is that it was very early. Like someone might look at this project and say, "Yeah, it's very simple." It's not. Like this has been made when the whole RAG idea like almost was non-existent. So
in the beginning of 24, it was made when RAG was really completely new and nobody knew what was going on.
Yeah, so please don't look at it like it's something very simple. It's not. Like when it has been created, nobody knew about this stuff. So, yeah.
I don't need bookmarks because I remember everything by heart. Okay, so I just wanted to show you. Of course, you can still look into it, but if you come back in a few weeks, there should be an update. This uses on nowadays what would be considered an old model, but I wanted to just show you here the power of the semantic search, as Michele said. Here, for example, the user was asking the question. This is a screenshot from the web GUI from Stuart. The user was asking about the Mercatini di Natale di Bolzano, okay? And I'm not talking about the LLM now, I'm talking about the search. Here you see the bug output where the first hit, this is ranked by score here, the most matching hit was Team Christkindlmarkt MD, which is a text in German. So you look for Mercatini di Natale and it finds the right text that is in German. This is completely non-trivial because you could never do that with full text search because it's a completely different word, Christkindlmarkt.
Yeah, the crazy thing is that these models are extremely small. Actually, on your phone, they are currently running. If you have an iPhone, it's running on your phone for the Spotlight feature. And like, you could implement this in your application like today without extra APIs. Just run it in the browser or in your device.
Yeah, this is really amazing. And this is somehow, if it were not that LLM stole the whole spotlight, we would do amazing talks about embedding models. They just had the misfortune to somehow being invented at the time about the same time as LLMs. So everybody, but they are really cool. For example, the one I'm using here is PGA M3, which is a famous model by a Chinese university, which is really huge for embedding models, which is 2 gigabytes. That is huge for embedding models. There are embedding models with just a few hundred megabytes that work well. This is multilingual, that's why it's huge. And yeah, this is kind of the top. So yeah, as you've heard, LLMs start to work if you have 10, 20, 30 billion parameters. Embedding models just need a few hundred to 1, 2 billion, and they already work. So this is an amazing technique in itself that is related. It is mathematically related to how transformers work. But it's unrelated in the sense that these are specialized models that are not the LLMs. You can also use the LLMs to embed, but you don't have to.
Yeah, the open source community comes in our support again in these things. Like clearly, if you have some vectors, you need a database to actually store them in. There is amazing open source like databases like PG Vector. So you're happy to,
yeah.
And and so yeah, that's why like for a while they were talking about startups that made database vector databases that became so big. This is the reason, like embedding models made them big. And yeah, check out PG Vector. It's very cool and very complex. So yeah.
Yeah, if you, I always say, if you don't know anything about databases, just take one of those embedded vector databases and be happy. You use it like it was SQLite, and that's fine. If you already use an SQL-based database, a relational database, there's really no way not to use, or no reason not to use Postgres, because PG Vector just does the job. And I always hear, yeah, but you need the millions of documents and performance, and this is all stupid. With respect to the calculation the LLM needs to do, the calculation to find this similarity in vectors is just laughable, okay? So you basically can search in a few milliseconds, you can search millions of vectors, and then you need maybe 2 seconds on an expensive API call to have your LLM answering. So there's, if anybody tries to sell you an expensive vector database, don't buy it, you don't need it. Just use whatever you have at hand. Okay, so if you want to, now the question was, okay, this is a bare bones interface here with Llama CPP, you can just chat, nothing else. Now you want to say, I want to make a tool where there is a web search, or I want to program my agent. Nowadays you have to do agents because that's the new buzzword. We mention here 2 open source projects, which are LangChain and Llama Index. Say something about LangChain.
Yeah, LangChain is pretty amazing. Like it helps you a lot, and you don't need to write a lot of like code that otherwise would have been written thousands of times. A thing that I really like about LangChain is their tool implementation. So you don't need to like write a fancy script that understands the output of the model. No, models have been trained to actually kind of be able to use the LangChain implementation. And you just put in your functions or whatever, like the actions it needs to do, and the model can call them. And even ask about what tools it has at hand, and it's pretty cool. It saves you a lot of time. It's Python, unfortunately. I really don't like Python, but for these use cases, like especially AI, machine learning, and LLMs, very useful. Like use it. Even if you hate it, use it. And yeah.
Yeah, it's you can't unfortunately get rid of Python because everything is written in Python in that space. So yeah, I just confirm what he said. When we first started to do this thing, we used prompt tricks. We made system prompts that basically said, if the user has a question that needs a calculation, please give me some sort of tag with the calculation, and I will calculate it for you and give you the result back. You don't tell this the user, you just use the result for your further considerations. And this was very fragile, because there was an interaction between the client calling the LLM, parsing the output, giving new fake prompts, etc. This is very fragile, and things like LangChain help you doing that. I made a proof of concept where you can, it was actually not made by LangChain, but it could have been made by LangChain, where you basically give the system just, it was unfortunately also in Python, some code with some functions, and you use the official Python way to document the function with these triple quotes, yeah. And what the tool, which was not LangChain but could have been LangChain, did was it used the inspection into the source code to extract these comments and create a prompt for you to give the LLM the information about what functions it could call. So you just write your function, put them into LangChain, and you have a tool-based agent, basically. So I tested it with Postgres. I had it made write SQL queries, for example. You could ask some question, and it would query the database for you and give you the answer in the prompt in a hidden way. So the user had the idea that the system knew everything that was in the database. In reality, the LLM just write the queries and got the result back.
Yeah, calling out another event by Denoy, we actually like used it in the Open Data Hub bootcamp. One of the challenges was to connect the LLM to an actual like function to interact with the Open Data Hub. So like even Denoy is like developing in this space clearly, and it's pretty amazing that it was that early. Like it was very early when they suggested to use it, and yeah, amazing.
What you mean, even the Denoy? That's not very nice against the Denoy.
Why is it not nice? What?
Yeah,
I'm not a native.
The word even is somehow disparaging.
I'm not a native English speaker. I'm still learning. So
yeah, me
so
neither.
I didn't want to like.
I think that was clear to everyone that we are not native speakers, right?
Yeah, clearly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
Okay.
Wait,
so,
a question. You don't like Python too?
I don't like Python
That's
too.
All right.
Now I'm on record. I'm doing Python courses. I'm doing Python training. Now I'm on record saying I don't like it. Well, I know it, but I don't like it. Licenses. That's an important topic. We also want to bring to your attention that nowadays we already talked about open weight. So you saw Apache 2, you saw MIT, which are well-known open source licenses, but there is a but. These licenses are applied to the weights, okay? So the problem is that you don't know which data this was trained on. I have here those 20 billion parameters. There is a 10 gigabyte file somewhere on this computer. In there is the condensed knowledge of all kind of data, but I don't know what. There might be proprietary text in there. There is probably illegal copies of Harry Potter inside there. There might be some random data that OpenAI scraped from private systems that coincidentally went to the web. So this is a bit of a problem. There are ideas now to really open source LLMs, meaning that you say exactly, this is the data set I trained them on. This is a free license. It's Wikipedia. It's content that is not copyrighted or copyrighted in a permissive way. I give the whole training recipe. So exactly how do I train it? For training, as far as we know, everybody uses open source software. Probably, we don't know because there are proprietary models, but probably they all use PyTorch. That is a quite easy guess. So that is open source. The training software is open source, but exactly how did you do the training? This is also not known. So that's what I meant here when I said the training recipes. There are open source initiatives to open source everything, but they are not there yet. They don't have the quality of the famous open weight models yet.
The open source community is going to do it, even once again.
If you, this is an interesting topic by itself. There is a guy, Carpati, that has a GitHub repository where you can, I think it's called, if I'm not mistaken, Nano GPT.
Yes, it's a repository about how like you could actually train your own
Yeah.
small GPT
And
model.
the nice thing is it has two scripts. They are called something like run 100 and run 1000. One needs about $100 of compute on some AWS system, and one needs $1,000, and it can train your own model. That model is like, I think, at the level of GPT-2 or something.
Yeah, but it's not about like the performance of the model.
It's it's of course not performing for
Yeah, it's to show
useful
that.
task, but it is to show that nowadays you can, with 100 or with $1,000, train something that already has reached the level of, I think, GPT-2.
Yeah, I think that is showing even something else. Like it's showing the open source model makers, like the guys at DeepSeek, how they could like make their models even reproducible. That means like I can run a script and I get the same model as you got with this data. So as to prove that like this model is actually what I'm saying, and that would be very cool.
And there is a lot of struggle now because OpenAI is sued by a lot of companies that say, hey, there's the copyrighted material, my copyrighted material is inside your weights, okay? There's lawsuits going on now, and this is actually going to be a problem, I guess. Because if a few of those lawsuits are won, we have a new copyright problem, something that did not exist before. What if it's a little bit like if you have a guy that has a photographic memory and remembers exactly your wordings of your copyrighted text. What do you do with that guy? Of course, you can't say it's a copyright violation because the guy has just a very good memory. And this is what happens with the larger models. They have a so good memory that they just remember by heart full texts of songs or famous books or so. And so this is an issue that is playing out now and which is not solved. It's legally not solved. It's an open discussion. Do we want to add something about licenses?
Not really. I think you covered basically everything at the moment. Like it's still a very ongoing world. Like it's not like as developed as the models themselves. Pretty soon it will. So we just have to wait about that. But like now to the fun stuff. How can we actually run our open weight models? Like, yes, we have these open weight models, but how can I actually use them in a production environment? There are ways. You could self-host. That means like bringing your own servers with your own hardware, costly hardware. Because like, yes, the models are small, but you still need pretty much like very power-hungry hardware for the current state of things. I'm not talking about Apple Silicon. That's a whole other word. Whatever. And yeah, and what about the software? Like, yeah, Llama CPP, very cool, but how do I actually integrate it in a safe way? How can I assure myself that I have the right licenses to actually embed it in my production app? That's very, like a very ongoing cause. And what about certifying my software? Like I'm using this open source software, cool. But like I'm using this open weight model with this data set that I don't know what it is. So can I get a certification? Will I be able to provide this service as like a part of my own app or not? This is a thing that connects very closely to the license problem. And so yeah, that's a very like ongoing problem. We're not going to discuss further into it because it's still developing.
Okay,
so yeah.
certification is of course a whole dilemma because this is basically not reproducible. So what the model does is not, okay, it is technically reproducible if you give a temperature and a seed. It is reproducible, but you can't somehow foretell what the thing is going to be. So this will not in a near future go into industries where you need certifications.
Exactly.
But besides that, you see I made brackets here because in generally how do you run LLMs? Well, first is proprietary API. This is what Peter Eichner did when the whole fight started. You just say, well, I don't know anything. I make an account on platform OpenAI.com, put my key there, use their endpoint, and go on. So we would not recommend this. I mean,
There is really no reason to do that because there is like third-party API providers like OpenRouter that like it's basically a marketplace, but a marketplace that it's
can I enter something before you talk about OpenRouter?
Yeah, absolutely.
The point is, not everyone knows that these proprietary APIs are not so much proprietary. They are basically a de facto standard. Like, you know, for example, S3. Your developers, you know S3 is an object store. You can buy at AWS, you can buy S3. And you can use the official AWS CLI. But this is a de facto standard. You can go to another provider and buy your storage there. And you can use the AWS CLI to access it. You can use an open source CLI. There's, for example, S3 Command, which is an open source tool that can access S3 on AWS or another provider. This is basically an open standard. Not a lot of people know that the exact same thing happens with LLMs. The standard is called OpenAI Compatible Chat Completion API, and this is fully standard. I have an example here. I will have you talk about OpenRouter soon. I have to find the right icon. Okay, so this is very small.
I found something we're not the same in. Why are you using a light mode IDE? Like,
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I should use dark mode.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt your eyes quite a bit.
But for the presentation, I will leave it.
How many of you like actually use light mode IDEs or dark mode? Like, raise your hand if you use a dark mode IDE. Okay, all right. I'm not crazy here. Okay.
Okay, I sensed a little bit of hostility. So, okay, so this is unfortunately Python code, which just shows you the concept. This code does not use. I know that secretly you start with import OpenAI, don't you? Because everybody uses that package. You don't need to. There's no need to that, because how the client talks to the LLM endpoint is standardized. It's called the chat completion API, and there's this path here, V1 chat completions. This is a standardized path. As you can see here, I'm pointing this to the model you just saw now, running on that simple web GUI. It's running on localhost port 8080. And I have here just the URL, I have the header, ignore the comment for the time being. The header says, yeah, I want application JSON. And this is what I sent. The payload, ignore the comment. The payload is these messages, and you have role system, content. This is the famous system prompt, which is always there and you don't see if you use a web UI. And then you have role user, content. This is the question. What was the question I wanted to put in there? Don't remember. Well, let's use who are you? And this goes on. This is an array here. So if you have a longer dialogue, you add assistant, role assistant, content, what was the last answer? Role user, the follow-up question. You give this whole array. You send it. This is just using here requests, which is a package that does HTTP requests. So there's nothing that has to do with LLMs in that code. Everything is here. And then there's some code that I copied that just takes the response and outputs from this response object basically the answer. I will run this now.
So yeah, basically the idea behind this is that you could like, yes, you're currently using the OpenAI services, but if you go for another provider, they use the same standard. So you can just change the endpoint to theirs and use the other provider without changing your code. So
Yeah. Okay. So you see in a second. Okay. There's this output here. That's just a warning. You can ignore this. This is because the Mac uses Libre SSL and not OpenSSL, which is a longer story. And the library says, "Oh, you're using Libre SSL. I don't know if I'm compatible with that one, but it is. So ignore that." And then I'm printing out the answer here. So this is the answer I got from localhost. But now comes the trick, what Michele just said. If you have this, or if you have the version even worse that says import OpenIE, change that. Get rid of proprietary libraries. Well, they are open source technically, but they are pointing only to a proprietary vendor. Replace this with just the plain HTTP-based code, okay? And you can change just the endpoint and use a provider. There are many providers that host these open source weight models, okay? So for example, if I want to say, I do something where this 20 billion model is not knowledgeable enough, I just change it with the 120 billion model. Let's do that. Look at how simple this is. I just need to, instead of defining the localhost URL, I'm very bad at doing this with one hand, to this URL. This is Scaleway. Scaleway is a French provider I like a lot that hosts a service where you pay the usual token fee, and the service hosts like 20 popular open source models. There's Mistral, there's GPT-OSS, there is Gemma. All the popular models are there.
the cool thing is that sometimes it's even cheaper to use these third-party providers. So yeah, you could get off even paying less for the APIs than you are now. So just look.
Just wait a second. Now starts the ad for OpenRouter. Just wait a second. We don't use OpenRouter yet. We use this one. And as you can see, I changed the URL. I added an authorization. I need to give, in the URL, I have a UID that identifies my account, and I have a key. This is, of course, necessary because they're going to bill me, so they want to know this. And that's it. No, one more thing. I need to add the model because they offer like 20 models, 30 models, so I need to tell which one. This is the large one, the 120 billion one. And the rest is identical. So I save this, run it again, and now we get the same thing, but it's even answering faster because they have a big NVIDIA there in Paris and not my miserable M2. So they answered basically, yeah, well, this is of course now a very similar answer because the models are related, just a smaller one and a larger one, okay? So basically, you don't need to use these proprietary libraries, just use plain JSON, send it to your local self-hosted one or by some provider, and you will be very easily able to change model and change provider. There's no vendor lock-in in this. And Michele has a recommendation for you.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter what provider you use as long like you got something that respects GDPR for here in Europe. But we got like surprised by OpenRouter because they offer some settings about privacy that like you could only enable 0 data retention endpoints. These are endpoints, exactly the same endpoints as the default API, but OpenRouter like certifies that they don't save your prompts. So like if you use them for like very sensible data and you don't want them to train on them or save on them, like logging and stuff, you could just like enable 0 data retention points only. And when you're trying to use an endpoint or a provider that saves data, it's gonna say, hey, I save data, you can't use me. So that way you can be sure about your 0 data retention and keep a secure application that provides a real privacy instead of like hanging on a provider that could save your data and you don't know it. So
they are a proxy, so they work together with other providers, and it's kind of like a marketplace. But if a provider wants to operate in this marketplace, it needs to sign documents that state that they don't retain the data and they satisfy this stuff. They are very transparent. So OpenRouter, for example, collects the error responses and gives you, okay, I have 10 providers for these models. These are their availability. They are 99.9% up, or this one is down half of the time. So you see all this data. It's kind of, if you want to compare with the financial industry, if you go to a certain provider, it's a bit like dealing with your bank that wants to sell you, of course, the investment from the bank. And this one is like having a fee-only consultant that just takes the fee for the consultancy service and has no own interest in recommended one or the other.
Yeah, so here are the settings. I bet there is other providers that do this. I just know OpenRouter. There is no like personal attachment to this service. I just like it. And so yeah, you could choose zero data retention, so they don't even keep the logs. Or you could simply choose the fact that they don't need to train on your things. So they could save the logs, but they can't train on it. And all of this, OpenRouter asserts. So you're not like...
Also show the pricing. If you have one model, they compare the prices. That is nice also.
Yes, wait.
Because you can pick the back end with the lowest prices.
Models. Come on. There. There is free models clearly. There is like some providers
There's
that
a model filter. Just put one of the well-knowns. Above is a
GPT-OSS.
Yeah.
120 billion.
Yeah, exactly.
parameters.
Pick this one, and here you see the single providers that offer these models, and they, yeah, as I said, you can see the uptime of each provider. You see the cost of each provider per million tokens. So it's kind of very nice and transparent. But of course, if you have a trusted provider, can also use that.
Yeah,
one.
you can also filter it.
The message is just don't pay a lot and lock yourself into some window when this is actually become a de facto standard and many that offer this service.
So like to sum it up, like the final like actual say, like the point we want to make is like there is a community. There isn't like a king in this space, and you can even like easily test the whole space with just changing an API key and an endpoint. So, thank you.
We forgot one thing: the Reddit community.
Yeah, there is actually like an online community about this. So.
Okay, we're almost done. Just a little bit of ad for Reddit even. This one here, it's called Local Llama with 3L. So Local Llama, so 3 L's, pay attention. Does it show somewhere? Oh yeah, over here. So if you go into this subreddit, here is the community. Here new models are discussed, software is discussed, endpoints are discussed, everything is here. This is, I think, the largest community, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Reddit is a very cool place because the moderation isn't like censoring random stuff, and like you can actually talk about stuff with people. And yeah, they got even the old.
It depends on the subreddit where you are.
Yeah,
they are different. There are bad subreddits and better ones, but this is a nice one.
Yeah, I don't use it much, but for like subreddits about open source stuff, not only LLMs, like check it out. It's a pretty cool place.
Yeah, there's the Linux subreddit is also kind of nice. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.